Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, Dr. Andes Haji Iskandar Abdurrahman, Chairman of Dharma Bhakti Iptek of University of Technology Yogyakarta, all Vice Rector, Dean, lecturers, and staffs of University of Technology Yogyakarta, the Honorable Mr. Saurabh Shah, CEO Universal Business and Corporate Service Center, Mumbai, India, Mr. Peter Craven, Managing Director, Katama Global, Melbourne, Australia, and Professor S. Gondry, Distinguished Professor of Finance, University of Hawaii, the United States of America. And respected all participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to Dr. Trigunarsih MM for the speech. And to open this seminar officially, we would like to invite Dr. Trigunarsih MM, Mr. Saurabh Shah, Mr. Peter Craven, and Professor S. Gondry, and also Professor Mudrajat Kunchoro to open or inaugurate the seminar officially. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are coming to the main agenda, this seminar, Strategy to Win the Global Business Competition, Lesson Learned from India, Australia, and the United States of America. The topic of this seminar will highlight the winning strategies adopted by these countries and the challenges in applying these strategies. This theme will surely give us an insight into developing our business and economy to become the winner in the world's business competition. So, I would like to invite all keynote speakers and provide special time to Professor Mudrajat Kunchoro as the moderator to handle this session. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers. Before we start the discussion and the presentation from the distinguished speaker this morning, I would like to highlight the profile of each speaker. If I read one by one, because here it's very long and thick curriculum vitae for each speaker. That's why I only highlight the key profile and just to let you know who they are. Yeah. Our topic here is lesson learned from India, Australia, and the United States. Yeah, how to win the competition. Then I prefer, and the committee asked me to start from India, and then Australia, and then United States. So the first speaker that will give the presentation here is very young. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Saurabh Shah. Yeah. Is that right? My name looks like an Indian too, yeah. Mudrajat, yeah, it looks like Mujarobat or something. And Mr. Saurabh, I think, is a corporate consultant and business strategist, and he has extensive corporate experiences and also involved in a lot of business here, a co-founder and chief executive officer of renowned business consultancy firms, Universal Business Corporate Service Center in India. And also I think he served as the managing committee member and a member of international core committee of the Indian Merchant Chambers. In Indonesia is Kadin, yeah, Kadin, Indonesia. In Indonesia we call it Kadin. Also here serve a lot of several prominent chamber associations in India, including Bombay Management Associations, Bombay Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Council of the Fair Business Practice, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and so on. And quite recently, Mr. Saurabh has been appointed by the Japanese state government city of Yokohama to set up its license office in India. That's our first speaker, and I invite Mr. Saurabh to present the paper in about 20 minutes. Okay? Yeah.
Namaste, selamat pagi, apa kabar? At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to the University of Technology, Yogyakarta, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this international seminar. The University of Technology has a great history and is characterized by the spirit of excellence. And friends, I'm indeed overwhelmed and privileged to be present here before you. I can feel and experience the positivity, the vibrancy, and the warmth in the seminar hall. For me, this is a special event for two reasons. Number one, because the topic which has been given to me is very dear to me. And the second reason, I am sharing my thoughts and experience before the young students and the businessmen who shall be taking or have taken important positions in bringing further excellence to this remarkable Indonesia and to the people and economy of Indonesia at large. I have a personal experience to share with you. I had an opportunity to interact with a small group of students of this university who had come to Mumbai along with the professor in the month of August. And let me share this, that I was impressed with the inclination of the students to learn, to know about India, about Indian businesses. And that says volume about the training which is imparted by this university, the quality of time and the efforts put in by the teaching faculty in bringing out the best in each of his students. So my heartiest congratulations to the university and the teaching faculty of this university. Friends, I would like to present before you a few slides and my thoughts on the topic, India's story, economic outlook, the strategy of the Indian companies to win the global business competition. As India moves in its journey towards economic excellence, India does not want to be a superpower or be a powerhouse. India would like to be a guide, a navigator to developing and emerging economies of this world. We would like to be a perfecter of the world, be humble, open, and compassionate to the other fellow countries. Our success, we believe, will give resources to us for sharing with our friends. And as India's ancient saying goes, the wise looks at the world as one integrated family. The first slide, which I would like to present to you, is a very nice quotation given by our former Honorable President, Dr. Abdul Kalam. It says, when learning is purposeful, the creativity blossoms. When creativity blossoms, thinking emanates. And when thinking emanates, knowledge is fully lead. Friends, when knowledge is fully lead, the economy flourishes. Let me share with you some very interesting facts about my country. These are the fundamental strengths of India. And these are the reasons why India has gained its visibility on the world map. And these are the reasons why India is much talked about in the international business corridors. Over to the slide. The economy of India, as it's shown in the slide, is amongst the top 10 economies in the world by nominal GDP. GDP, as we all know, is a gross domestic product, which is a measure of the size of an economy. The pattern of growth of GDP is an indicative factor of the performance of the government's economic policies. It determines, it indicates whether the country is in recession or not. India is also the third largest in terms of PPP, that's the purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity is a technique used to compare the relative values of the currencies of two countries. India's remarkable economic growth in the last 3 decades has made it one of the fastest growing economies. I'm happy to share with you, India is classified as a developing economy with approximately 7% average growth rate for the last 2 decades. Bombay Stock Exchange, or the Sensex, is considered to be amongst the largest stock exchanges of the world and surely one of the oldest. India has one of the fastest growing service sectors. That is where the IT and the software development contributes, apart from the other service activities. And it has a growth rate of around 9% since the year 2001 and contributes 57% towards the GDP of the country. A very interesting and exciting parameter to share, Indian economy became the world's fastest growing economy from the last quarter of 2014, replacing the Republic of China, People's Republic of China. Further, it has the largest estimated retail market to the tune of US $500 billion, which is certainly a very big market for any investor who's interested in coming to India for the consumer items. India ranks second worldwide in terms of the farm output. Over half of the Indian population is below 25 years. And by 2020, the average age of an Indian is expected to be 29 years. This is what we call, friend, as the demographic dividend of our country. India will be, if not the only, but a major supplier of labor force to the world in the near future. We have the largest number of post offices and the employees in India. You might have heard of the 3 Ds, which our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has been speaking about. The one is the demand, that definitely the Indian markets have a huge demand. Second, the demographic dividend, which I just shared with you in terms of the population and the democracy. Indian foreign exchange reserves are to the tune of US $353 billion. Textile manufacturing is one of the largest source of employment in our country. India, with approximately 1.28 billion people, is the second most populous country in the world after China. The figure of 1.28 shows that 1 out of 6 people on this planet live in our country, that is India. In addition to the consumer profile becoming younger and younger, rural consumers, which comprises 70% of the Indian population, is beginning to demand attention. Let me share with you one important fact here. India always had the population in olden days also. But what is that so exciting about India? It is the purchasing power which the middle segment of the Indian population has got. And that is a substantial portion of the India's total population. This talks about the Indian consumer confidence continues to be highest globally and has improved the second quarter of the calendar year. The next one is definitely a very interesting point to be made. The growth in India's consumer market will be primarily driven by a favorable population composition and increasing disposable income. That's what I meant by consumption levels and the purchasing power parity. The growing purchasing power and rising influence of the social media have enabled Indian consumers to splurge on good things. Let me share with you a fact. A few years back, I was in Taipei as a part of the Indian business delegation. And we were interacting with the Taiwanese businessman. And the statement was made that our products are good qualitative, but they are high, they are expensive. We do not think that the Indians can afford this. And I think that today the answer is very clear. This is where the market is. If you have to offer a good product, the India has the appetite to absorb it. To share a few points which are not on the slide, but very quickly to give you a further insight on what makes India attractive is a political stability and improved economic conditions, growing health and social image consciousness to continue to shape up the mindsets of the consumers. A study by US-based networking solution giant called Cisco reveals that in India, the second largest smartphone market globally, the number of smartphones is expected to grow strongly to over 650 million by the year 2019. Foreign direct investment, as you have in Indonesia, in India as well, we have certain sectors which are in negative list. Certain sectors fall under certain ceiling in which there are restrictions of the percentage of foreign direct investment. There are certain sectors which are 100% automatic. India has been ranked among the top 3 attractive destinations for inbound investment. Certainly foreign companies invest to take benefits of cheap labor force and changing business environment in India. These are some statistics given by the Financial Times in 2015. In first half of 2015, India attracted investment of US $31 billion compared to US $28 billion and US $27 billion of China and US respectively. As per the sectors and the economic survey, the higher foreign direct investment inflows have been in the sectors like services, telecommunication, construction, of course, because India is now focusing on the infrastructure projects, computer software and hardware. The government of India has of late amended the FDI policy to encourage more foreign investors inflow in the sectors, and some of the relaxations include the investment in insurance sector now has been allowed from 26% to 49%. And I'm happy to share the statistics shows that after the announcement of Make in India, the FDI has increased by 48% in India. India has excelled in its term ranking in terms of the FDI inflows from 15th in 2013 to 9th position in 2014, and while in 2015, India became the top destination for FDI. To share with you, since we have some businessmen present here, The new reforms, the new economic policy of the government allows 100% FDI in medical devices. That means you do not have to have a local partner to set up a company in India to deal in medical devices. 100% FDI is allowed in telecom sector and single brand retail. FDI limit has been raised to 74% in credit information and 100% in asset reconstructions companies. FDI limit of 26% in defense sector is now raised to 49%. And we see a lot of interest from the US companies to come to India to set up companies in dealing in the defense equipment. Just a bird's eye view. These are the structures which are available to any foreign investor to come to India and set up business. The first, you can incorporate a company. A company incorporated in India can do the trading activity as well as manufacturing business. The second option is the limited liability partnership. This is allowed only in those sectors wherein the government of India allows foreign direct investment under automatic route. So this is a new structure which has been introduced in India in the last 3 years, but it has certain reservations. Sole proprietorship and partnership form, one can set up subject to the approval from the regulatory authorities. Extension of foreign entity, as we know it as the permanent establishment in terms of the liaison office, which is a representative office. Indonesian company can come and set up a rep office in India, which can only act as a channel of communication between the parent company and the Indian market. It cannot undertake commercial activity. Second is a branch office, wherein a branch set by Indonesian company can undertake trading activities. Project office, which is set up for execution of a specific project. Last one, and which is of interest to many people. I was at Trade Expo last week, or just a few days ago, and I see a lot of Indonesian companies who are interested in appointing distributors and selling agents for the Indian market. And they feel that if we get good market in India, then we consider coming and setting up offices in India. Quickly on to the direct taxes. Direct tax is certainly on the net income earned in India. A company in India has to pay tax at the rates which are shown on the slide, the company, the branch office, and the LLPs. The SC plus EC, the SC is a surcharge, and EC signifies the education cess. Parameters as are globally recognized that impact businesses across various stages of their life cycle. The daily operation at startup, in getting finance, in getting locations. That's a similar situation as well in India. Major challenges. As every country has certain attractions, certain incentives, there have to be challenges. So that's part of life, right? Here are the challenges that most of the businessmen face in India. One is regarding the land acquisition infrastructure, the taxation, starting the business, the cost is relatively high. But there have been some initiatives which have been taken in a very specific and concrete manner, which include reducing the registration fees for setting up new businesses in India, protecting minority interest, getting electricity at a low cost. The government has decided to introduce an ordinance to make major changes in the existing land acquisition regulation. And if at this stage, if I may share with you the comments of Jim King, the World Bank Group president, when he visited India in March 2013, he said, "I leave India with a profound admiration for the remarkable development gains this country has achieved in recent decades. India's experience holds valuable lessons for the World Bank Group and the countries around the world." These are a few more initiatives taken by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now, to incorporate a company in India, there is one single electronic form, and once you submit that form, it takes care of all the formalities. Earlier days, we had 3-4 stages to register a company in India. This is just indicative of the steps which are taken by the Indian government. There's a website which has been set by the government of India, the ebiz.gov.in, which gives substantial information about setting up business in India. Numerous foreign companies, after the new government announced the Make in India concept, the Digital India, e-commerce, have shown interest to come to India. To name a few, Foxconn is planning to set up a huge manufacturing iPhone facility in India. Mercedes-Benz will be will be increasing its annual capacity very shortly in India. Likewise, there are a few more examples to share with, but due to paucity of time, I'm not placing those before you. This is the World Bank chief with our Prime Minister and the few thoughts that they exchanged. Now I come to the strategy part for the growth and success in the Indian companies. I have put this into two parts: the Indian companies expanding and setting a business outside India, and when a foreign company comes to India, what should be the strategy? To give you an idea of both inbound and outbound to develop your success story in India. Process of liberalization and globalization of Indian economy that led to certainly development of competitive advantage. ICT, the information, communication and technology, resulted into emergence of new types of businesses. These are just a preamble to begin with. Now I come to the exact, the strategy devices to look at the business models from comparative to competitive advantage. Historically, till about 1990, the engagement of Indian companies with overseas market was with export of traditional products: tea, coffee, iron, ore, leather, apparel, gems and jewelry, etc. And there was a shift which came and that set the motion for the Indian economy. And that was companies found and developed second level advantage, availability of lower cost, skill of technical and scientific manpower in India. So that was a shift from the comparative advantage to competitive advantages. Point number two, favorable conditions for overseas successes. Favorable factor conditions with respect to natural resources, skill, capital and infrastructure. Demand conditions in domestic market comparable to that of overseas in terms of presence of global players, quality of products and customer expectations. Presence of ancillary industries, intensity of competition and aspiration of looking beyond domestic market. I think, friends, it's all in the mindset. When you find that you want to have a space outside India, automatically the thoughts and the strategy start developing. But for that, we have to look at the international market. This is highly illustrated by the intent of high diversified Tata Group. I'm sure many of you would be knowing the Tata Group's, one of the major corporate houses in India, headed by Mr. Ratan Tata, who is an industry icon by himself, which is committed itself to building overseas operation in each of the businesses. I'm happy to share Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, which is one of the largest and the flagship companies of Tata, has operations in Jakarta. Tata Motors has set up operations in Jakarta. Indian companies in overseas market, point number three strategy types for Indian companies in overseas market: outsourcing, internationalization. Outsourcing, let me first deal with it quickly. Where the domestic market is relatively either very small or unattractive, software services, business process outsourcing, pharmaceutical clinical trials, or the company has made a choice to be primarily focused on overseas opportunities. To give you an example of Indian companies, Sundram Fasteners and Bharat Forge. When you find that locally the scope is not that we're getting saturated, you look at, looking globally and going beyond the boundaries of your own country. Internationalization, where companies are aiming to expand market or balance business downturns and risk of domestic market. Example, Jindal Iron, Bajaj Auto, a very big business house from India. Multinationalization, where companies having substantial overseas business and after operating for a few years are aiming to create sustainable competitive position in several geographies. That's what is multinationalization. Coming to the next point, differing requirements of the institutional and the retail customers. That's a very important understanding a businessman must have when you are looking at the market business strategies. Outsourcing strategy type companies in most of the cases do business with institutional customers. However, brand, local knowledge and distribution reach are important for success when a company deals with retail or individual customers overseas. Since setting up business overseas call for large amount of investment, getting acclimatized with the local regulation, the joint venture is always a useful route. I have been a part of a lot of joint ventures in India and overseas, but I feel it is more of synergy of mindsets and alignment of thoughts than only the commercial principles. So it's important that when you select your joint venture partner, you have a thorough due diligence, and bottom line is there should be a thorough alignment of perception and thoughts. Because certainly we want joint ventures to be successful, whether it is in Indonesia or any part of the world, because you are joining hands with a person who is not known to you very closely. Marketing alliances could be one strategy, very useful for internationalization strategy. As in the case of Tatas and Rovers for sale of cars in UK, you appoint a distributor selling agent to get the feel of the market, and then you decide the next step of setup. The alliances can be more broad-based in the multinationalization strategy, as shown by highly successful and stable Aptex China joint venture. Very important, and that's where the leadership comes. Critical role of conviction led in leadership. A common element across all the Indian companies that have made overseas breakthrough is the presence of a strong leader with vision and person who is very pragmatic. This talks about some of the names of the top management which have driven the Indian corporations. Now coming to the multinational company success story in India. CCD, which is the Cafe Coffee Day, today has become the largest youth aggregator, and from a marketing standpoint, the success has come by focusing on 3 A's: accessibility, affordability, and acceptability, as said by Nagaraj, the marketing president of CCD. We have some remarks from the business today, which says that transitionals must understand just how global and how Indian they must be. For any foreign company to come and establish, you have to have your perceptions, your business principles aligned with the requirement which are local. That's what we call as the local taste. We have an interesting case study of McDonald's. In fact, I have a very detailed case study of the strategy, but due to paucity of time, I'm not able to share the complete slide with you. But the points I would like to certainly highlight, and some of them might be very appropriate for those who are looking at the Indian market. Sensitivity to local taste. Just for an example, in India, the beef products are not taken. So when McDonald's decided to come to India, they thought globally, but they acted locally to see what is the taste and what is acceptable to the Indian customers. Common sense approach. It really doesn't make sense to sell beef in a country where the 85% of population doesn't eat it or even shun a restaurant where beef is served. Vikram Bakshi, the McDonald's managing director's comments. Affordable price, introduce meal packs, affordable ice creams, affordable food options, certainly. In order to penetrate, you have to come up with a price which is affordable. You may increase it later on when the customer has got used to your products, and then your product develops a repeat value. That's the time when you can look at increasing your price. Promoting family dining experience. As it says, India like eating with friends and family. So there was a very nice TV ad appealing which said that Pojai McDonald. Innovative practice. In India, many of the families, they like to order food at home and eat with family. So the concept of home delivery which has been set up. Having discussed on the business strategy for both inbound and outbound, I would like to share with you a few thoughts on India and Indonesia. As we all know, India and Indonesia have an historical relationship. Like India, Indonesia is diverse, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and democratic. In terms of the businesses, there are more than 70 Indian companies which have set up companies in Indonesia, but not more than 10 Indonesian companies have presence in India in terms of investment. Yes, they do have presence by appointing selling agents and distributors. And your embassy, the trade attaché, the Indian embassy are putting in their best efforts to see how we can enhance this reciprocal trade and investment. Indonesia has emerged to become the second largest trading partner of India in the Asian group. Currently, the data says that the total value of trade between India and Indonesia is around 16.2 billion, out of which the Indonesian exports to India is around 12 billion US dollars, and the Indian exports to Indonesia is approximately around 4 billion US dollars. Indonesia has always been open to the Indian products and services, whether it is Bollywood or Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, it's always been welcomed by Indonesians. These are some of our industry tycoons and their thoughts, which I would like to share. That's Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, the founder chairman of Reliance Industries, Mr. Narayan Murthy, founder chairman emeritus of of Infosys, and Mr. Ratan Tata. The thoughts are very encouraging. As a result, I thought of placing them before you. So having shared this, let us work together, Ayo Karja, for progress and prosperity of our countries and of the world globally. And before I conclude my presentation, I would like to convey my best wishes to the students of this university. Ucapan selamat untuk karya Anda, cara dan maju. Wishing you all the very best. Thank you very much for the patient hearing. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saurabh Shah. I'm impressed. He's not only the business consultant and strategist, but it's look at Minister of Economy that promote India. Yeah. There are 3 points that I highlighted. I can highlight and make a note here. First, since this year, India overtook China and United States as the top destination of foreign direct investment. That's the marvelous achievement. The first time in the Indian economic history, I believe. Also, India with 1.28 billion people is the second populous country in the world that we must learn and also consider as the second largest market in the world right now. I remember that we know some of the book that quite influential saying about BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and also put in India always on the BRIC, yeah. But interestingly, Indonesia is considered as the next 11. I believe one day it become BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Indonesia. But we also make a note here, there are some challenges that Indian business environment, doing business in India, it looks like Indonesia, they also have a problem in land acquisition, taxation, and starting business. It looks like in Indonesia. Okay, our next speaker is Peter Craven. Peter is quite well known here, not only the manager, director of Katama Global, but also the Vice President of Indonesia-Australia Business Council in Yogyakarta. I think you have been here for more than 5 years, right? Is that right? Oh, 12 tahun, more than 12 years. And he can speak Indonesia fluently. Now I invite Mr. Peter to deliver his speech and presentations. Time is yours.
Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu, selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum. First of all, terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much to the University of Technology Yogyakarta for the invitation to speak today. Every time I come back to Jogja, it feels like home, even though Melbourne is my home at the moment. But after living in Jogja for 12 years, I see a lot of friends here, so I'm very happy to be back. Today I'm going to do a presentation to discuss the aspects of the Australian competitive business environment, the lessons learned, but probably more important, the lessons yet to be learned, because Australia is about to go through some very major changes and challenges on a global market as far as the economy is concerned. Australia's enjoyed a prolonged period of economic growth which has created jobs and raised the living standards and funded social services in Australia. The unemployment rate and the median income compare favourably with most of the developed economies in the world. The drivers of this economic success have changed significantly, from sustained productivity growth during the 80s and 90s to an extraordinary demand for Australian minerals and energy over the last decade. This demand has meant that 90% of Australia's gross domestic income growth from 2005 to 2013 came from capital investment and terms of trade. The continued success is very far from being assured. In actual fact, we're not sure where we're going. A new question for Australia's leaders has become all too real and urgent. How do we transit and make a transition to new sources of growth as commodity prices and investment in resources projects start to normalise? And there's no escaping that Australian businesses are competing in an increasingly globalised economy. Moreover, fundamental changes to supply and demand are reshaping how the economy operates down right to the individual job levels. On the demand side,
the next speaker is Professor Kyun Ri. Yeah, I think he's undergraduate from Seoul National University, law schools, MBA from Rutgers University, and PhD from the Ohio State University. He is quite well known in finance and also distinguished professor of finance. And also he served as executive director of the Asia Pacific Financial Market Research Center at the University of Hawaii. He told me that it took more than 17 hours to come here. So I give a privilege for him to present the paper about 40 minutes. Otherwise, only 20 minutes is not enough for him. It's not worthwhile for him to travel more than 17 hours and deliver the speech only 20 minutes. Mr. Professor Kyun Ri, time is yours.
Thank you. Selamat pagi. Apa kabar? You must be tired now, huh? After 2 long hours of presentations. But I will try to move very fast. And also, I tried to prepare the PowerPoint file, each slide big, so you can see easily. So if you take a look at the left-hand side of slide, we have our overall ranking in terms of our global competitiveness index. Number 1, Switzerland. Number 2, Singapore. And then United States and Germany and the Netherlands and Japan and Hong Kong follows. And Australia is number 21. Korea, my fatherland, number 25. And Indonesia rated number 37. And India, number 55. If you take a look at the right-hand side of this slide, we have a sub-index focusing on corporate innovations. And you see all of a sudden, Japan jumped up to number 2. And Germany and United States stay there. But Singapore and Hong Kong disappears from the top list. And it's not surprising.
Now I invite any comments and suggestion perhaps from you. Please raise your hand and identify your name and also your institutions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, ladies, to comply with 30% quota. It's not easy in this conference and in Indonesia. Okay, lady first and first lady.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sinta Kusuma, and I am a student of University Technology of Yogyakarta. And talking about the strategy to win global business competition, I mean, in my opinion, it's the people of economic, we have to realize and sensitive about the factor and strategies how to support the global business competition. To perceive the lesson that I have given by Mr. Saurabh Shah from India, there are three strategy types: outsourcing, internationalization and multinationalization. I want to ask about what is the strategy that have applied in India as also Asian countries, of course, like Indonesia, that can be applied in Indonesia without we forget pay attention about the strategies about the situation of economic culture, that Indonesia and India have a similar culture like a multi-ethnic, religion, ethnic, and also democratic country, and also the geographic. What is the strategies they can apply to in Indonesia from India? Thank you.
Okay, good questions. Next.
My name is Bambang Priyatno from Faculty of Business and Information Technology. My question addressed to Mr. Saurabh from Universal. How Indians to simplify the form for the investor submissions from nationals, provincials to local? Do they oblige to master a national language, like, but unfortunately your language is English, but here Indonesians, do they investor to master Indonesians or Indian dialect in India? How the process will be easier for investor in India? My second question addressed to Mr. Peter Graffen: how to set the pathway for the human resource entering the international market from licensing business, franchisee, or alliances. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sajid.
Sorry, what?
I'm Sajid. I'm honored to be able to attend in this seminar on strategy to win global business competition. And my first question goes to Mr. Saurabh Shah. So I'd like you to tell about a little bit about the success story of India in your business computation. Well, first, I'm interested in asking about the major challenges of India. One of the major challenges of India, as you highlighted in your slide, is land acquisition. So I raise these issues because Indonesia also has the same problems in land acquisition. Whether there's mining industry, mining sectors, or business sector, and anything like in tourism also is including. And I want to ask about the specific question. To what extent the land acquisition impact on the business stability in your country? That's the first. And then the second question also still goes to Mr. Saurabh, is about limited liability partnership. As far as I'm concerned, like we studied from the Philippines, they limited the companies overseas when they come to the Philippines, and they limited only a certain business. Is there any policies from your government to limit it, like your case, if Indonesian companies, goes to India, right? And second speakers, I'd like to go to Professor Piro. Professor Piro, you start from in cattle industry, in cattle sectors, in cattle. You grow a sheep, okay, and then you export the wool, as you mentioned earlier in your presentation. And then after that, you go to mining sectors. I'm interested in mining sector because I've involved in the mining sectors like 4 years. And then we have a problems here mining sectors, created problems. So as for us, I'm concerned that an Australian mining company like Normandy in Perth, correct me if I'm wrong, Normandy in Perth, and then they have come to Indonesia, and then they open pit mining and underground mining company. But the problem, of course, Indonesian, it can create job opportunities for Indonesian people. But on the other hand, it creates a problem. It deals with the talent placement. That's a problem for us. So, is that strategy? Is that one of the strategy to win the global competition in the natural resources business? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That Indonesia have very much populations, same with India. And in Indonesia, the society prefer to consume the export product than the local product. I want to ask you how the government policy to make every people can consume the local product in India than the export product. And then the second question about the strategy to win global business competition. What are the company's strategy to increase value added so that the company can be the multinational company in the world? Thank you very much.
Last but not least, Mr. Saurabh, time is yours. You got so many questions. You become so popular in this seminar.
Certainly, I'll try my best to address all the points and the questions that have been posed before me to your satisfaction. Let me first address on a holistic canvas the regulatory framework in India, because I think that's something which I want to emphasize and will give a better insight. In India, we have federal regulations which are at the central level, and we have the state and the provincial regulations. If I'm setting up a company in India, it comes under the federal regulations, so I have to follow the set of regulations and register a company. If the registered office or the place of business of my company is in Mumbai, then for my business activities, I have to also comply with the provincial regulations of the state of Maharashtra, as Mumbai falls in the province of Maharashtra. Income tax, which is a direct tax, is regulated at the federal level, and it is uniform irrespective of the state in which you are doing your business. That's the tax on your net income, the profit that you generate out of your business, and it's uniform. Second, service tax. Service tax is levied on the business which are into providing and rendering of services. If I do a consultancy business, apart from the income tax, I have to pay service tax. Again, service tax is at the federal level. It is uniform irrespective of the state in which I operate. The significant and an interesting area is the sales tax, the VAT, the value added tax, which is on my trading activity. If I'm trading and I set up a place of business in New Delhi, in Mumbai, and in Gujarat, I'm governed by the respective state regulations as far as the sales tax is concerned. And that requires payment of tax with the state authorities and filing of certain returns and forms. This gives you, I hope, an idea as to there are two sets of regulations which are applicable for any class of business or any place of business that I set up across the country. Having said this, the efforts which are being made by the government is to have a single window at the provincial level. It's difficult for the central and the state to come together and synchronize all the regulations at this stage, but certainly the efforts are being made at the state level respectively to have a single window. To give you an example, the state of Telangana in India has come up with a single window clearance. Any foreign investor comes with a proposal, the provincial government will process the application within 15 days' time. And they have come up with a notification that in 15 days, if the approval is not granted or the query is raised. If not, then it is deemed to have been granted. Now, these are the initiatives which are being taken by the provincial governments in India. Definitely, it is left to them how they want to incorporate the single window mechanism, but it has started happening. And this will bring a lot of years of doing business in India. Second, we are moving towards digital India. E-commerce is now a very big business in India. Most of the applications for registrations at the federal and state level is now through e-filing, electronic filing. You go onto the website, the form is in English language. With the form, there is a help file, which is called as a help kit file, which gives you complete instruction as to what you have to fill in each of the field which is given in the application form. You submit the form online, you pay the necessary statutory payment if applicable to a particular registration, and the processing will be done by the concerned regulatory authority. This certainly reduces the time normally which used to be taken of taking the physical form, going to the authority in terms of understanding what is required to be submitted. You submit physical forms, the officer might say, okay, this is what I required additional, and you keep going and back. So this is something which is now being addressed, and it is available in public domain. If I'm a government officer and I want to raise a query on the application, I have to make my notings on the portal. So it's all in the public domain. I can't raise queries just for the sake of raising the queries. And I must get the necessary submission and response to my queries before I completely process the form. Now, this is a step which is taken and which is certainly making it much more convenient to deal with the multiple registrations that we have in our country as of now. In terms of the steps taken and the strategy the Indian companies and India as a whole has adopted and what we have seen closely, which I feel can be implemented in Indonesia, and certainly it is a lot for India also to learn from Indonesia, is there is a very efficient interaction between the corporate, the businessmen, and the state level government authorities. There are information memorandums which are submitted from time to time to chambers of commerce and trade associations on what is the voice of the corporate on any of the government policies or the reforms. This needs to be followed up, this needs to be taken to its logical and meaningful end in order to see that the business benefits out of it. We in India, as I'm sure people across understand, the businesses are done or set up for doing business. Compliance is something which I'm required to do, but it is not the only reason for which I'm setting up business. So definitely it is important and it is understood by the government that the compliances have to be made much more friendlier so that the businessmen are more encouraged to comply and it doesn't become a hardship for them. I understand that like in India we have FIPB, which is a Foreign Investment Promotion Board. You have BKPM, which is the Investment Coordinating Authority. I had an opportunity to interact with some BKPM officials and the Ministry of Trade, and I think the efforts are in a very positive direction to see that they are able to give approvals in a consolidated manner to any foreign investor who's coming to India. Having said this, let me share the strategy which the Indian companies have adopted to expand globally in a very nutshell manner. When the Indian businessmen realize that the market is getting saturated for them in India for the reasons of price or maybe the abundant supply of the products in which I'm dealing, they started exploring overseas. And when I say exploring overseas, the first objective is to penetrate the overseas market and sell the goods or provide the services which I am competent of. Maybe I do not go and set up a branch office or make an investment by setting up a company, but I will find a distributor or a selling agent, or I will have a business alliance for selling my goods and get the feel of that particular overseas market. As the time went and the Indian businesses felt that yes, there is a need to have a local presence to provide more efficient after-sales service or to connect with the customers directly for their comfort and for their confidence, they went ahead in the form of either acquiring a company outside India, which is already in the same sector. If the Indian businesses which had the fund availability and the liquidity went and invested. In India, the regulation which deals with the foreign exchange allows an Indian company to invest up to 400% of its net worth into the foreign companies. Second, they went and set up the branch offices or the license offices as per the local regulations. And the third, which absolutely it's for all the businesses to concern, is to go and set up something called as a manufacturing and setting up a company, because that's the investment that I'm making. And I may not be able to repatriate that easily. So when I feel that I want to consolidate my position, I am sure of the market, I go ahead and set up a company. I make investment in the share capital. And I set up my own company. So this has been the more or less the strategy. For Indonesian companies, and for that matter any foreign company which wants to source products and services from India, the first and the immediate route could be appointing a buying agent and sourcing the products and services from India. Once you find that you have business and you have customers for what you are sourcing from India, you may set up the different structures, which I have already mentioned just now and I have also explained in my presentation. Limited liability partnership. This is a structure which was introduced in India approximately 3.5 years back. LLP is allowed to be set up by a foreign investor, by a foreign individual or a foreign company, only in those sectors in which the government of India allows 100% foreign direct investment in under automatic route. For example, if an Indonesian company wants to come and set up a consulting LLP just for business consultancy in India, it can set up an LLP by putting its own funds, having its own partners without any local partner. Why? Because under the Indian regulation, consultancy business is under automatic route. You do not need a local partner. But as far as the LLP is concerned, you are allowed to come and set up a LLP subject to getting an approval of FIPB, that is a Foreign Investment Promotion Board. From the structural angle, LLP is a costly structure, and hence the regulations are a little more stringent for an LLP. But an Indonesian company want to come and set up a private limited company in India which will be in the business of consulting. You don't need FIPB approval. You can simply register a company and it's under the automatic route. Coming to the tax regulations in India, the taxes which are collected by the state government, like VAT and the CST, those taxes are retained by the state government for the development and the progress of its own province. Whereas the taxes which are collected at the federal level, that is the direct income tax, service tax, they are used by the central government for the country as a whole. In India, we are in the process of moving to a regime of GST, that's goods and service tax. This will abolish the regime of VAT and the sales tax, which is right now at each state level. And there will be a uniform code known as GST, which will govern the trading activities across the country. This matter is pending before the Parliament for its approval, because once this is approved, certainly the state governments and the central government needs to have a very clear understanding of what is going to be the sharing of the amount that is collected at the central level by virtue of GST. But that's definitely a step in a very positive direction. Export houses in India. If I am manufacturing in India or I am buying from the suppliers in India and I'm carrying out 100% export activity, I enjoy certain tax exemptions from the state and the central government in terms of my direct tax, in terms of my moderate credit, that is modified value added tax credit, on the tax which I have paid on the purchase of my raw materials. So this is what the government of India has been doing to encourage the exports out of the country, because that brings foreign exchange reserves, which is very important to every country. On the land acquisitions. Certainly, that's one area which has been a concern for Indian businesses, for foreign investors. Mainly, the reasons being, number one, the land registration requires a couple of days. It's a long process. By the time you complete your formalities, you may be, it's taken a couple of months, and you might get frustrated with your, the sense of immediate setting up of business. So the reforms which are taking place are, number one, set up large designated industrial parks with pre-clearances. Once this is done, you go to that particular industrial park, you apply for the land, the regulatory authority locally will be authorized to allot the land, plot of land to you, and that will smoothen the process completely. In fact, in many of the industrial zones in India, manufacturing clusters have been set up. These are manufacturing clusters which have single window clearance, which have pre-clearances on allotment of land, supply of water, power, and is available for the Indian companies to go and set up businesses, and is also available for the foreign investors to come and set up businesses in India. This kind of industrial parks with the pre-clearances will facilitate a market-based pricing system where price is determined by an independent body. So that takes care of the commercial part of the prices, because some areas the real estate and the land cost is very high in our country. Last 2 points to conclude. I think for the businesses, I strongly feel that we can't expect the government to do everything. They are there to do things at the macro level, but there's a lot that we can do at micro level in terms of seeing how the businesses can develop through the chambers, through the trade associations, making sure that the trade associations and the chambers exchange the profile of the members within the country, or there are a lot of MOUs which are signed by CADIM with the chambers of commerce across the world. And there's a requirement to exchange the profiles of its members, and there can be a matchmaking done at the micro level as well. Second, participating in the trade fairs, exhibitions certainly gives showcasing of the products and gives and facilitates more inter-cross-border transactions. In terms of India and Indonesia, there are certainly ample opportunities. There are areas which have to be explored. And if I may quote few, which are currently under the reserve category as far as Indonesia is concerned, but I read in the newspaper in Jakarta Post that the government is considering deregularizing, and that can open up the corridors for bilateral trade and investment between the two countries, which include health sector,
creativity, e-commerce. I think these are three potential areas amongst the many more which sooner the government of Indonesia opens up, and we'll have a lot of opportunities to cooperate with each other. Last thing before I conclude, it's important that if you plan to come to India, or it goes for the Indian company if it plans to come and set up business in Indonesia, first to decide what is the business activity that I want to carry out in the other country. Number one. Number two, to do this business activity, what is the most convenient business structure that I can adopt? Third, having decided what is the most convenient business structure that I can adopt, please list down all your compliances in terms of the local regulations, which may be on a quarterly, half-yearly, annually. Have this as a calendar in front of you. You'll be able to estimate the cost of setting up business in a very clear terms, and you'll have a complete clarity of the regulations. I think if this mechanism, the modus operandi, is followed, it will avoid a lot of confusion. Many times I have seen businesses that they would first like to grab that opportunity, and we'll see the compliance and the, how to comply with the regulations at a later stage. I think if you're looking at a particular destination on a long-term basis, it is better to be wise at the beginning and have your evaluations and due diligence in place. I hope I have addressed most of the points, maybe not in the same order that they were asked. And if there is anything, if I have left out, please feel free to connect me anytime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give them a great applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have heard a lot of insight, analysis regarding how to win in the global competitions. I open the last session. If any one of you would like to ask any question or suggestion, 2 persons, if any, for the last chance before we have lunch. Okay, I think most of us are hungry and would like to end the sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your coming and your involvement in the discussion, and we have to thank also the distinguished speaker here. Let's give them a great applause, and thank you very much.